For me. Good afternoon and welcome to the Brown Bag Business Chat. I'm your host, Heather Steele, and I'm really excited today to welcome two of my colleagues. We have Randy Skinner. Hello. And Adam Fout.
Hello.
We're changing up the way that the show works a little bit today. We're going to start having some conversation between the three of us weekly to give you feedback on things that our clients are asking us about that we really think will be beneficial to the small business community. So today we're going to be talking about website reviews, how to determine if your website's good or bad or indifferent. What do you look for? How do you make good corrections to your website to get it generating business, working for you? Hopefully you'll come out of today's show with some really good ideas for going back and looking at your own website and finding some things that you can correct to start generating more leads. So before we jump in too far, I do want to put Adam and Randy on the spot and just have them introduce themselves. So Randy, if you would start and just introduce yourself and let people know what it is that you do and who you do it for.
Sure. So Randy Skinner, and I am the business development partner here at Blue Steel Solutions. So I get to partner with our clients and just kind of help walk them through the website process and make sure that we're all on the same page internally, putting together their game plan for their website. So among other things, that's kind of the gist of it if we're talking specifically websites today. I'll stick with that. So yeah, so that's kind of my role. And I'll turn it over to Adam.
Thanks, Randy. My role as the content writer is to make sure that we have a consistent voice across all our written communications. So I write all the blog posts mostly, or I edit them. I also take care of the social media and run that and make sure that we have the same branding going across everything. And I also write content for all our clients.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I didn't tell them they were going to have to introduce themselves. So
no, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
So surely we know what we do, though.
If not, we have some major problems. So backing up to the topic of today's show, we're really going to focus in on websites and what makes them good and bad and indifferent. And we're very fortunate that we do have an example site that someone was brave enough to put on the line and let us review live and talk about how we go through a review process internally and really just give some live feedback on this website. So before we jump over to that screen, just to give an idea of some of the things that we will be going over, it's really important for a website to have a very focused audience. So before we can start to talk about whether a website is good or bad, we have to know who the website was built for. So Adam, I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on what we mean when we talk about audience and how we determine what that is.
Well, the problem that I see a lot is that people think their audience is everyone. And that would be great if that was true, but it's not true. We need a really specific audience to know to target our content towards, because if you target it toward anyone, it's targeted towards no one. And then nobody feels special. Nobody feels like this is just for them, and nobody cares too much about reading it. And so when you have an audience, you want to know specifically who is it I'm targeting, who is it that ideally that I want to work with. And once we have that in mind, it makes it a lot easier to write content, to target content, to know what I'm doing day to day when it comes to what I'm writing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I mean, hopefully to everyone else out there, it does as well. But having that ideal person in mind that you're trying to get your message to, or really to ultimately sell to, is going to, first of all, make your job of writing it much easier, and then also make it much more effective.
Well, yeah, because if you're just writing to write, a lot of the time you get stuck and you get writer's block because you don't even know. It's hard to even pick a topic at that point. You just want to get something out there, but you can't get something out there if you don't even know who you're writing it for. But once you have a really specific audience in mind, it makes your job a lot easier. So putting in that work up front saves you a lot of time in the long run.
I think that's a good segue to the next thing that we look at when we do a website review, which is branding. So again, having a very specific idea of who you are as a brand also makes it easier to do really good content rating. Do you want to talk a little bit more about brand and why that's important?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it builds on what Adam was saying about the content and the message. So what you want to be known for, what you want other people to think of when they think of your name or your logo or whatever it is that your company's trying to do. And so the message is the first part of that, but it even comes down to what the text you're using, the colors you're using, every little stylistic component all is a part of your brand. But I think one of the things that we try and do first is figure out, okay, if your brand were a person, what are the characteristics that you would use to describe that person? So I know it's kind of the three adjectives to describe your brand. And so that's a really good starting point. Once we've identified your target audience, let's figure out, hey, those 3 go-to adjectives to describe your brand. And then from there, we can kind of start working through and figuring out how to put that all together into a package. I mean, I think I'm simplifying it, probably dumbing it down a little too much. And there's a lot of other components that I think are important to an individual business. So we would take those into consideration. But yeah, what would you add?
You know, I would just say that, especially going back to the website, it's taking who you are and what's important to you and the values you want to be known for, and putting that forth, especially in your content, but also in the design, like you said. So if you are a very friendly and outgoing and personable brand, then the last thing you want is website content that reads like a textbook.
Right.
You know, people aren't going to read that. They're not going to stick around. They're not going to even get to the point of your message and to your pitch or to whatever kind of call to action you have for them, because they're going to be bored right off the bat. Right. On the flip side of that, if you are a very technical, very serious business, and you have misspellings, you have bad grammar, or maybe you're using a website template that's very modern and you know, has a design that is very appealing to, you know, maybe a younger audience, but you're trying to sell a very technical product to an older audience, then that's not going to be a good fit.
Right.
So all across the board, that really has to match up. And then that leads us into the next thing that we look at is the content itself. So I think it's pretty clear that the content has to be written for a specific group. It has to really represent who you are. But then it has an even more important job to do, which is to get the user to actually do something on your site. And this is where we see just a huge missed opportunity, is that people have websites. They may have 50 pages on their site, but there's no goal in mind. There's no idea of what am I supposed to do. I come to your website. What do you want me to do?
Right.
How does this become a marketing tool for your business? How does it become a lead generator, something that collects donations, whatever it is that the website should do? How does it do that if your content doesn't have some kind of call to action in there?
I think too, your website is your first impression. I mean, we live in a digital world these days, and it's your online footprint. And so we all know in the business world, first impressions are important. And so why would our website be any different? So I know that we want for when our clients to go in, when they go into your website, they know exactly what you're doing, they know the message, and it's not lost.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that goes back to everything.
I think it's easy to forget that a lot of the time, a lot of the stuff we're writing on websites, it's meant to be persuasive. We need some informative writing on there, but a lot of it needs to push people to action.
Yeah.
That's where you see the disconnect a lot, is that the writing isn't persuasive. It's just continuously informative. And so you get this constant flood of information, but nobody knows what to do with it. No one knows what they're supposed to do. They're reading, okay, here's this great thing. And I've learned quite a bit about it. What do I do next if I want to buy this thing? And there might not be a button to purchase that item. There might not be, and they, you know, in the mind of the person who's made the website, well, of course, they'll just go over here to where I'm selling my products and buy it there. But that's not how the user's experiencing things. They're ready to buy it from this page, not click over to another page. So I think that we forget a lot of the time about the experience of the user and what they're looking for. And that ties in very directly to the content and how it's written.
It's huge.
Yeah, and you bring up another good point on we see content that's written from this perspective of I do this, I sell this, I make this widget, instead of what is the benefit of that widget that you make to the audience or to the customer. The ability to take that statement of what you do or what you offer and turn it around into why is this a good thing for the end user? Why should they want it? Why should they want to purchase it or learn more about it? And really focusing more on those benefit statements than just purely what it is you do or offer is huge. And I think there's been so many sites that we've gone into review, and it's like literally I can count the word I or we 50 times on the homepage and the word you once. And that's a huge issue that's really very easy to correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always, and like you were saying, a lot of stuff is just feature heavy. It's like feature after feature after feature, and it never tells me what is the benefit of this product.
Right. Okay. And then, so we talked a little bit about goals and conversion, and that's something that I think we can get more into as we look at this specific site, because it's a little hard to talk generally about that because every website is so different.
Sure.
But having those goals, having some way that you're pushing people to either contact you, buy a product, fill out a form, make a donation, whatever that is, it's really key to have that and to have it in mind for every single page of your website. Maybe not every page is pushing them to a sale or pushing them to contact you, but you could be offering a resource for them to download in exchange for their email address. You could just have the goal of a page is really to pass them through to the next set of content on your website. But having an idea for every single page has a purpose and a goal is going to be really important for making the most out of that website experience. And then we move into the design. So design is something that might be a little bit harder to DIY and actually take on and do yourself if you're not a designer or developer. But it is something that we can talk about and give some very good feedback for how to make sure that the design stays out of the way while still representing your brand and helping to create a good overall experience. No additions to that one.
Well, I was just thinking that even working within WordPress, which does make things fairly simple for someone to do, even if they don't know HTML or CSS, there's still designing something within WordPress is much harder. So even when you're working within a theme that gives you a lot of different options, if you want to go outside of what that theme offers, it starts getting really technical really fast. So I think that it is something that's an area where unless you have the technical expertise, you really can't just jump in and start making massive changes. And that is one of the limitations, I think, to WordPress when it comes to new users.
I think something when we're talking design, just kind of like the visual aspect of it, you're right, Adam. If we're getting into the technical side, there's so many limitations. But small things to think about, using the same fonts, making sure you're consistent with like your size, your colors, is everything in line with your overall visual message. So I think kind of on the visual colors, even that style side of design can sometimes be, people can overlook it. So there are small things that if someone is choosing to do it themselves, there's small things to take into consideration. But yeah, when you get into the bigger stuff, there's missed opportunities if you don't have someone that is able to have the technical skill.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the way that WordPress is set up with the content being separated from the actual technical theme it's really something that can kind of save the do-it-yourselfer from themselves. It's very easy to get in and think that you're doing really great things. And we see people kind of get into this mindset of, well, everyone has a slider, so I need a slider. Everyone's doing these big parallax background images, so I need one of those. Everyone is doing, these dark backgrounds with black and white photos, so I need that. And you start to layer all of these things on top of each other that really don't serve a purpose. The design is there because you feel like it needs to be there because everyone else is doing it, but it doesn't serve any purpose for your user. You're not deciding that I need these big images because this is something that's very appealing to my audience. It's not, I need this slider because I have a lot of information that I really want to be accessible but I just don't have the real estate for it, which still isn't a great example for a slider. They're really not the best thing to do to begin with, but that's a whole different story. And then as far as the on-page content itself, there is a lot you can do with, and I'll loosely use the word design,
Right.
Having good, short, scannable paragraphs. Include headers that help orient me as I read down the page. Add some images or some pull quotes on long pages to break that up and make it easier for me to read and for my eye to scan. Do some of the things that are really easy to do within the editor portion of WordPress, where you don't have to go in and make code changes. You're not updating the style sheets or anything like that, but still using the tools that are available to you to do a very good job of presenting the content, drawing the eye to the place where you want it to go, and not overwhelming the person with just gobs and gobs of content.
Yeah.
Okay, so that said, are we ready to dive in?
Yes.
Do it.
In our site review? Okay, so let's hope that the Google Plus gods work with us here. I share my screen. Okay, so we have the Nazarene Village, which is part of the Mount Chestnut Retreat Center. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not on the homepage. The Mount Chestnut Retreat Center has graciously allowed us to review their website, provide feedback, talk about some of the things that we would love to see altered on the site to hopefully make it a more productive piece of their marketing toolkit. So I'm going to just, as we pull up this site, we'll talk about design last because I feel like that's really the least of my concerns here. There's definitely some things we could do to make it more branded, but I love the clean, simple interface that we've got going here. Oh, Adam is.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen as well, so I can point out something.
Okay, something a little bit different for us, so we may need to like bear with it here. So starting out here with the actual layout and design of the homepage, like I said, it's very clean, simple, and I love that about it. My first concern is the font size of this text is so small and so hard to read. And I'm pretty sure if I were to inspect the code, everything is in bold text except for the words "welcome to thee." So that's a pretty easy change there.
I feel like when I'm looking at it, the first thing that I notice is I'm not really sure right off the bat what they do. So I think that the welcome to the retreat center is great, but I would just like to see maybe a line that tells me a little bit more about what they do that's a little bit bigger, using the header, kind of like what you were talking about. So,
and to back up a little, I didn't introduce this site very well. I apologize for that. That's true. So this website is built for this retreat center. The goal is to have people booking the retreat center for more than just, I think right now it's used for some church events, but otherwise it's not generating any revenue. It's just being unused the rest of the time. So the website is to educate people about the fact that there is this retreat center available and hopefully convincing them to come and have their retreats there. So with that information,
probably makes my comment make a little more sense.
Yes, yes, it does. But it's still very difficult right off the bat to know exactly what I'm here for. I honestly assumed that it was a church website.
That's what I thought too.
And then I saw some food, and so I was just really kind of confused on
yeah. You know, I had the same difficulty at first, but I think that's just upon first glance, and I think the logo is what kind of pushes that this is a church website, because the logo looks kind of like a church logo. But that sidebar, I figured out pretty quickly from that sidebar kind of what was going on, because it calls it a retreat center. But it was not blastingly clear in my face, this is what it is and this is going on. It took me a second as a user to figure it out.
It would be great if there was just a big heading, you know, right here, front and center, that said Mount Chestnut, a retreat center in Butler, is PA, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Yeah. Or is it Philadelphia?
PA, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Just very clear and simple. This is what we do.
Yeah.
This is quite a bit of text to read through, especially because it's such a long name. You know, we've got the Mount Chestnut Retreat Center, a ministry of, it goes on for so long that I'm lost before I even dive into it. So I think just adding that nice big header that simply states, this is what we do. And then get into the content of what it is that you can offer. I would, you can lose this whole first sentence and then really just talk about the types of retreats that they offer.
I would like to talk just for a second about something I really do like about this website, which is that, let me share my screen real quick, which is that it's mobile responsive. And so I've been trying out some different, and this comes even before I read the content, because as a user, if I'm trying to access this site from my phone and it doesn't work, or it's a poor site, it doesn't matter what's written on there. I'm not even going to look at it. And so I tried it with these different screen sizes, and it works on just about anything I try. And I think that's really important that they've gone with this, and it's definitely one of the it's definitely a good thing that they have this responsive site.
I agree. I mean, if you don't have a responsive site, I mean, you're not going to even show up on the mobile phones. And I mean, we all know that's where we are. I mean, day-to-day things. So yeah.
Yeah, that is a really great point. And I think, they have, it looks like are you there on the homepage? Oh no, you're back on that Nazarene Village page. That one keeps throwing me off a little bit.
Go home.
Can you go just click to the homepage?
Yeah, here, I'll just stop sharing. You can.
Yeah, just a simplified header there, even on the mobile devices, would really help anchor me right away to know exactly what this website is.
Yeah.
And then having some kind of call to action right here, just a button that says, learn about our packages, or book your retreat now,
yeah.
or something that really helps pull me through to the next place I need to go in the website. Would just really help to hopefully get some of the traffic moving in the direction they want it to.
I feel like you go, Adam, I'll go next.
Oh, I was going to say another place where you kind of see that, if you click on 55 Plus Village, and it takes us to the Nazarene Village. Here, I can share my screen again.
On that page.
Okay. So that's another spot where I think a call to action could have been very helpful. And instead they have for more information, contact our office or email. And here's the email. And I think that's another missed chance for a possible lead or a conversion, because if we had a button there here, let me share my screen. If we had a button there that was telling me, click here to do, to contact, click here to rent or to get this space, then I think you would be much more likely to convert. And even if we just made it so I could click on this email address. Now, some phones will make it so that'll happen anyway, but I think that's a missed chance there for leads.
And I'll take it one step further, because I personally hate email addresses that you can click on, because I forget that I don't have my default email client set up. So then it starts to open Apple Mail, and I get really frustrated with that. So instead of an email address, why not just have a contact form right there? Why make them even take any more steps? Just collect the basic information you need right there on the page. Don't make them go anywhere else, and done. Simple.
Yeah, I think this
plenty of free plugins out there to be able to add a contact form and make it look really nice and send that information on to whoever PGH is.
Yeah, I think forms would help a lot on this website.
I think another thing that I noticed, and I think if we go back to the homepage, so a missed opportunity is when a lot of people, I would think the people that are coming into the website, the first time they come in, they're probably not booking their retreat that first time. Just more than likely, they're coming in, doing research about where they're going to have their event and kind of gathering info. So I would like it if there was a place for me to like join their mailing list, like a newsletter list, or I see down below on the homepage, they have some blog stuff going. We can talk about that. It's a little confusing about placement. We can kind of come back to that, but they have content that they're able to provide me as a potential user that's going to book an event there. So they could send out a monthly email and be have something at the top of the homepage here that says, hey, not ready to book your event? Join our email list, or or something that fits with their brand personality a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think they have a really good chance of building this brand out. I mean, they've got like on the About Us page, you see the executive director has a little message there, and you can see something that differentiates him a little bit from other people. He's got this ending to his greeting, "God bless you," and I think that if you could bring him more into the brand itself, and I think that's another thing that would really help this site a lot, is to see more of the brand. It feels a little like that's missing.
Yeah, and that brings up another good point that Randy and I were talking about earlier. They have this great page where they've got the pictures of the staff, which I love that. I'm going to be able to see who's going to actually be helping me through my retreat, and that's perfect. I'd love to see them take it one step further and have bios.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about them. You know, I think Randy said something about, tell me that Joan has a corgi and loves to scrapbook. You know, give me an opportunity to connect with these people and really want to bring my group there because I feel like we're going to be at home with them. I'd love to see them maybe retake the pictures, get everyone smiling, maybe take more consistent images so that everyone has a similar background, and then add those bios in. Give your brand a chance to shine through. You know, if you're running a retreat center, you're bringing people basically into your home for a weekend or, you know, 3 to 4 days, however long the retreat is. Why not use that as an opportunity to show that you're this very warm and welcoming and fun? You know, you're going to have a good time, get some work done, enjoy it while you're there. Whatever that brand looks like for them, really bring that through and everything in the website with the content. You know, maybe soften the way it's written a bit. If you're more of a very homey feel, throw in some contractions right in the way that you speak.
I think there's an opportunity too to capitalize on, these are the 7 people that are the core of Mount Chestnut Retreat Center. You don't get these people at any other event center. Yeah. So capitalize on that and be like, hey, when you check in, here's who's going to greet you. Debbie, the office manager, is going to make sure all your paperwork's done, and John's going to be there if you have anything that come up that was unexpected. I mean, tell a story about the people, and I mean that's something that's probably the only thing that you truly can't find somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that it's very clear from reading over the blog just a little bit that they're very knowledgeable. They know a lot about this, and they're very, from what I can read, very service oriented, and they want very much to help. And I think that shines through when you get into the reading. I think the problem is that people might not get to the reading, and I think people kind of forget how people use websites these days. People are scanning; they're scanning everything. And they might not get to that blog post for a while. And so I think giving that a chance in smaller bits of content in other areas, targeted properly, can get that message and that clear goal of being helpful across.
So I totally agree with you. And since you brought up the blog, can we go back to that and talk for a moment just about the style of how the blog's set up on the website?
Yeah, and before we do that, Adam, maybe one of these links takes you to the blog, but I didn't even realize, I thought they just had a couple of posts. So that's something that definitely getting the blog into this navigation system, and we'll come back to this in a second because I think there's a lot we can talk about here. But getting the blog right up here so I know that it exists would be great, because I may not land on the homepage, or when I do, I may not stay there long enough to realize that there's some cool content. This is part 12 in our ongoing series, Planning Your Retreat.
Yeah, they have
work into this
content. They have tons of content, and a lot of it's really great. So I think you're right. It needs to be easier for users to find.
Yeah, and I know you have a really great point, but so one more thing I want to say before we move on to it.
That is my point.
Going back to Randy's idea of having an email list to start building. They already have a 12-part series in how to plan your retreat. Why not offer sign up here for our 12 part e-course on how to plan your retreat.
Oh, that's
So
a
if you're
cool
not ready
idea.
yet, let us deliver an email every single week that's going to give you everything you need to be planning that. And then they have the opportunity to continue to put their center in front of these people on a weekly basis until they're ready to make a decision on where they're going to book.
Yeah,
That would be
they
really cool.
have a lot of opportunity to use. They have so much content. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff they can do from a content marketing and social media perspective. They have so much that they can share very easily. So I hope that's going on theirs. And I see that, they're on social media. So I hope that's going on their social media channels.
Yeah, that's one thing that I love about them is that they're kind of the opposite of what I think sometimes we see. They have all this amazing content. And I think sometimes that's the most challenging part is to come up with that. So they're already ahead of the game if they could figure out how to package that in a way that they could give that to future clients. So I love that idea about a series. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at their Facebook, and it looks like they're doing a pretty good job of putting out different types of content. So
that's awesome. So, and in addition to adding something in the navigation bar at the top that says blog or, planning tips, whatever they want to call it, the way they have it now on the homepage, it needs to be set up to where I know that it's a blog. I know that it's separate from this welcome message. Because right now when I go in, I feel like it's kind of all one component, I guess. I don't know, but I
yeah,
all the way through it. So there's no really separation that's telling me, hey, I'm on to something new. So I personally always like it when I go to a homepage, there's a little bit about what they do, and then the blogs are just small little segments, like maybe there's like 3 blogs at the bottom, and all I see is like a snippet of the text and a great image, which they're putting these food images in there, which I love that first image. It's so colorful.
It's perfect.
So it grabbed my attention, but then I see all this other stuff and I get confused. So they it's like 50-50. Half of it, they killed it. They did awesome. And then the other half, it's like, wah-wah. So, like, you're so close.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown to see that. And, just having the header here that I wouldn't even use the word blog. I would come up with something creative that really captures what kind of content it is they're sharing, and then reduce this from showing a full post down to just an excerpt with the thumbnail image. And that way, when I scan, I can see several of those. I mean, they've got like at least 8 pages of content, probably more. So why not show 4 of those posts on the homepage instead of just 2 by shortening that up?
Yeah, I think that just goes back to how are people going to use it? How's a user going to use this site? And if they're using a blog, they want little snippets that they can read and say, oh, that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
So I know, I don't know if we want to have any more notes about the blog, but something that Heather mentioned when we were looking at it before was kind of separating out how it's laid out to be targeted towards the individual groups that are going to be booking the event. So for example, if it's youth groups, have a page that they can go to that's all about youth groups. If it's scrapbooking guys and gals, have a page for that, and so on. If it's a business professional group, have a separate page. So it seems like they have it separated out as by the facilities that you can rent. Is that how they're doing it right now?
Yeah, so they're doing a good job here of letting you know what they have available.
Yeah.
But I think each type of group is going to want something different. So rather than focusing on the facilities, I would focus on the types of events that you can host.
Yeah.
And then you get this chance to going back to having audiences. So right now they're in that mindset of everyone's a potential customer. But if instead they thought about, okay, how would a youth pastor want to learn about our facilities and go forward with booking something to bring a bunch of middle and high school aged kids to? What would someone who is putting together a sales meeting want out of a retreat? And think about these different user groups and instead focus the content on that. Because I can guarantee you, if you're bringing in, I had an idea in my mind and then it slipped.
Well, I think
you're bringing in a group of, I don't know, scrapbookers, right?
Sure.
They may be much less interested in the gymnasium than they are in how many tables can you get into one room so we can all be scrapbooking together.
Yeah.
That's probably not a fair assumption because I'm sure plenty of those ladies work out, but it probably wouldn't be as important as some of the other things would.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to point out about that page you were on that was really great. It had exactly kind of what we were talking about here. I'll share it. Exactly what we were talking about with here's our chef, and it talks a little bit about him and who he is. And I think that's great. I would love to see that back on the other page, but I think it's good here too because it shows us that personal side of it. The only change I would make here is maybe a picture of him smiling so that it fits with the friendly personality bit in the text. But I think that that's exactly what we're looking for in terms of bios. So they may already have that content here on the website in different spots, but it'd be good to bring it all into one spot as well as have it spread out on other pages.
Yeah, definitely. And then cross-linking. You know, there's nothing that says that you can't have those pages cross-linked as you're restructuring the website. You don't have to get rid of any content. Just change the way that it's linked together, and definitely think about who those individual audiences are. And it's almost like we did that a little bit here. Like, let's go into family camp.
So started to do it.
It seems like this is something. Oh, this is actually a section of their blog. That's interesting. That's focused on this family camp category. So would be great to have an introduction here of what family camp is, so I don't have to read every blog post to figure it out. Looks like maybe it's some recent retreat that they did. So having an intro here would be great, and then some more information. But if this was a target, so we want people who want to come and organize family camps, then that would be one audience group that really needs its own section on types of events that they host or types of retreats to be grouped together.
Yeah, I think they would really benefit from putting together some personas for all their different audience types and saying who, so that they can look at every day, who am I writing this for? Which of my 4 or 5 different audience segments it looks like they have am I targeting?
Another just quick note here under lodging, I would definitely, you know, go ahead and make up the beds and take a picture. Have some people in there, you know, let's not make it look like you're sending somebody off to prison here. Make it look warm and friendly and match the rest of the website. I had a similar site that we reviewed not too long ago that was a retirement home. And they had posted, instead of pictures, because the facility wasn't finished when they built the website, they posted kind of the artist rendering of what the rooms would look like. But they didn't put any color in it. So the beds, the furniture, everything was gray, and it looked like a prison. And it kind of reminds me just a little bit of these pictures where it's so bare and so basic that it doesn't look very appealing. It doesn't look like something that's going to be a place that I want to spend the weekend. So definitely dressing that up, and then having a lot more pictures throughout the website. I feel like I should just be inundated on every page with images of this place. You know, it's a big part of it is the facilities, and we're just
people in those facilities, people interacting and having a good time and enjoying the facilities. And I'm sure there's plenty of pictures that I bet they already have a ton of those pictures somewhere. So just using them or getting permission maybe from their clients to use them. But yeah, I think that that's a great opportunity to improve the friendliness of this site.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think the one thing that's huge, just not to harp on it too much, but identifying those 3 users. Who are those top 3 personas that they are having events for, and really just kind of reorganizing it based on that. I mean, I think that would be huge.
One thing I'm also noticing is they don't have much in the footer. What do you think about that, Heather? How do you feel about that?
You know, it could be a little bit of wasted real estate. I think that, you know, instead of having facilities here, if we were to say, okay, let's switch this out with the types of retreats that we can handle, then listing these different facilities in the footer could be a nice use of space. And then also, I would put a contact form down here on every single page, so that regardless of, you know, what's going on the page, it's easy to get in contact right there, right away, very easily. Other items in the footer, you know, I'm not sure how important the social media links are for them without doing some research into what they're doing on their social media. But that may be something that can move down and put something that's more important here, something that's going to make better use of that real estate.
Yeah, I feel like those links might be just put to better use on the blog, where people are going to want to share that content, and maybe not, because it looks like it's on every page, so maybe not on every bit of the website. I don't feel like people are going to be likely to share a location, for example.
But I don't think these are even share buttons. So these would be probably to follow, because they link just directly.
Right, they are.
I am curious, now that you've said that, though, to go back into their blog posts.
The share feature. Nope.
Yeah, it looks like they're not doing anything to make it easy to share the post. So that would be something else that they could definitely easily add, especially because they've got really good content. And this is like a great Pinterest image, you know.
It really is.
It looks delicious.
It does. I would like to know what that is. So if whoever prepared this dish, please message us and let us know what it is. I'd really like to. So I have a question of something. I don't see anything about reviews or any sort of, I mean, what do y'all think about that? Do you think there should be something on here, or like a place that sends people where they can go and get more feedback about the experiences that the customers have had? I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they did. I think so, for sure.
So we call that social proof.
Yeah.
And it's really just showing that other real live people have come to the retreat, survived it, had a great time, went home happy. That would be huge to add. And I would say you need to make that accessible from every single page. Definitely a review section in the header would be great. And then something that we like to do is just pull one of those reviews and put it on each page, especially as you have longer pages of content. Use that as a nice way to break up the text, kind of pull it apart into its own style and put those reviews there, so that it's really easy for people to, as they're starting to think, maybe this will be a good fit for my group, then they see a relevant testimonial on that exact same page showing that, you know, a group similar to mine did come here and they loved it. Especially on those new pages, if you create them for the different types of retreats, then you can have, if I'm on the youth page, I can easily see reviews about, you know, youth retreats and so on. And there's some great plugins from WordImpress that work with WordPress to pull in those reviews from Google+, from Yelp. I know, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but they're working on something for Facebook. So being able to pull those in and display them right there on the site would be fantastic.
It'd be awesome.
I want to look at one more important page while we're here. We've already gone pretty far over our time. So the contact page, it looks like they do have a form here, which is fantastic. I love that they're asking, you know, would you like us to call you? That's a really nice option to give people, because nobody wants to really be bothered or inundated. And I'm assuming if I say yes, phone number pops up there. So that's a really nice little feature.
Yeah, if you go to the general info page also, I think it's just info. I think that's another page that could definitely be improved. Here, I can share it on my screen. So I think that, you know, it has this photo here, which isn't bad per se, but I think that it would be better to have links to like individual pages for each facility. I feel like there's just some missed opportunity here.
Yeah, and I think there's a plugin, I can't remember the name of it offhand, that Natalie, just blanked on her last name, Natalie McKee's created, where you can actually take an image like this and build a responsive image map on top of it. So
that would be so cool.
They could really easily in the browser actually build an image map that takes you to those different areas. Or just use the general WordPress gallery function and set up some galleries for these, so that when I click it, it opens in a box to show me the image in a larger view, rather than, you know, right now it just opens to the image, and this is kind of awkward. If I don't know much about websites, I probably don't know how to get back to where I was. So that's a really, really great point. And then they could create like a nice index of all of their information here and have links that go out to the appropriate parts of their website.
Yeah. One other thing that does strike me, though, that's really great about this website is it is fairly clean. You know, it's a pretty minimalistic style, and I've seen a lot of websites that are just totally cluttered, and this website avoids that very well, I think. So I think in terms of overall design, the design isn't getting in the way of the user or the content.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
The only design notes I would have really is just I'd love to see them have a logo that's a bit more specific to them, that has a little bit of personality. You know, I like that they have this image of the building that is probably very recognizable if you've been there before, but I think they could probably spice it up a little bit and just give it more warmth and personality. But otherwise, I do think, especially if they can add a lot more images to the website, that keeping everything else clean and out of the way is a fantastic approach.
I agree. I think they have a lot of great things going on. So, I mean, overall, they're really the content, and they have a good start on the pictures. It's just there's some ways that they could missed opportunities and ways that they could really maximize the real estate they have here.
Perfect. Well, I think we've gone pretty far over our standard 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here unless y'all have any other last notes or thoughts about this site or other things that people should think about when they're reviewing their own website and looking to make improvements.
No, that's all I've got.
No, yeah, I think just focusing on the target market and making sure your message is in line with it, and really kind of honing in on consistency and your overall brand. I mean, those are all components that we went over, and yeah.
I think my final advice would just be don't overthink it. You don't need every little thing that your website can do. Just because it can do it doesn't mean that it should.
Yeah.
That's something that's really important to keep in mind, and just focus on how you want people to navigate that website, what you want them to do when they land on that homepage, how you envision them moving through the site, and then what's the end goal? What do you want them to do? Would be very important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that is the end of our show for today. I hope y'all have liked the new format. I'm really excited to have Adam and Randy joining me each week. We will still have some guests on as we have topics that we just have people that we think are fantastic in those areas. But otherwise, we'll be coming back every single week at our new time, Thursdays at 2 o'clock Central, with the Brown Bag Business Chat.
Thanks, y'all.